From Washington, D.C., this is Straight Talk Africa on the Voice of America. Here's your host, Shaka Sali.
Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa, live from the Voice of America studios here in Washington. It's 18:30 UTC on Wednesday, September 10th. I am Shaka Sali. Today, we have opened the telephone lines for you, the audience, so that you may ask any question that may be on your mind, or make any comment or express an opinion that may reflect the concerns of your community or neighborhood. In other words, it's your show, you set the agenda. And joining us here in our studio is Ngoga Gateretse, Regional Manager for Africa, IJET, Intelligent Risk Systems. What exactly does that mean, first of all? In fact, it's a pleasure having you here, by the way. Yeah,
great having you as well, seeing you again. IJET, pretty much, the term, actually, I'm still struggling with it myself. But really, pretty much what we do is we monitor the events around the world for our clients, and we try to inform them on issues that can affect their operations and their personnel around the globe. We are their eyes and ears, and we just make sure that their operations run smoothly.
Like businesses, governments, or
businesses, what? NGOs. We cater pretty much to that type of constituency, and we've been in business since 2001.
I see.
So pretty much, yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Also joining us from our New York studios is Dr. Kizza Besigye, President of the Forum for Democratic Change. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Besigye.
Thank you very much, and it is always a pleasure to be down here and to see all of you.
You're most welcome. Later in the program, we'll give you, the audience, a chance to call and talk with our guests. The number to call is 202-619-3111, and the U.S. country code is 1. Let me come to you immediately, Frederic. You just watched a piece done by Caroline, and what is your immediate reaction to what you just saw? You knew at one time there were these great twin towers in this great city called New York, and now it's gone, and it was tragic.
It is. The piece was actually quite moving, and the only thing that I can say is that you know, those terrorist attacks were horrendous. It was really an attack against humanity, really, if you think about it. And I think this is something that all nations should strive to defeat and really fight against it, because nothing justifies the killing of innocent people for any cause whatsoever. So that's pretty much what I can say about it. It's really sad.
Frederic, of course, you listen to what Dr. Besigye has to say. He talks about, it seems to me, how governments on the continent have tended to take advantage of the war against terrorism by undermining perhaps the fundamental human rights of their people. But he also said that there were terrorist attacks in East Africa. This, in fact, was in 1998 when you had the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi and the one in Dar es Salaam.
Correct.
But you also had some other attacks, I suppose, in 2002 in Mombasa.
Correct.
Couldn't it be that rather than perhaps governments deliberately trying to take advantage of the fight against terrorism in order to undermine or in order to, in a sense, perhaps deal with otherwise who you would call legitimate political opposition, but that in fact what they think they are trying to do is in fact to fight terrorism?
Well, I have to say I agree completely with Dr. Besigye. Two observations. Number one is that he is right when he says that governments who had poor human rights records have had a pass, so long as they were involved in the anti-terror campaign. And what has happened is that basically in those countries where you had already a lot of issues, pretty much by trying to silence the opposition, they created more resentment and have given in some ways wings to already extremist groups. So these groups kind of found some sort of legitimacy in groups in people who are already felt marginalized and who are somewhat angry. So that is one thing. The other thing that
you heard the other thing and
sure.
share it with us after we come from the break.
Absolutely.
We'll pause for a very short break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion. So please don't go away. Before the break, Frederic, you were trying to make a point, but unfortunately, I had to go for a break, and I'm sorry for that. I hope you forgive me for that.
Yes, what I was trying to say was that these governments, in their efforts to kind of crack down on the opposition by using these anti-terror laws, they have kind of given arguments to radical groups in some parts of Africa.
Do you have any specific cases that you can cite rather than perhaps generalizing?
Well, I'm thinking here, for instance, let's take the case of Somalia. Let's take the case of Somalia. Somalia, which is a case people like to talk about.
But Somalia is a stateless. It's been stateless since 1991.
It has been stateless since 1991, but they've had also a transitional government. They've had governments in Somalia.
Transitional government that is only recognized by outsiders, not the insiders.
Exactly. If you're the insiders, it is true that they have their own issues, but in the effort to kind of gain some sort of a legitimacy you gain it by improving the security situation in your own country. They have used also some of these terror laws to kind of crack down on the opposition or anyone who disagreed with them. So what happened was that radical groups such as Al-Shabaab were emboldened, were given arguments, and their ranks swelled, with the operations of the transitional government. Somalia did have a lot of issues, and I would also like to add that, following September 11, 2002, like you were saying, we had attacks in Mombasa. At the time, I think that whether it's intelligence services in America or in other countries, they kind of did not really understand exactly, or not understand, or didn't pay enough attention to radical groups within Africa itself. Because I think that these groups have been operating there for quite some time. We've had them in Sudan, we've had them in Tanzania. These groups were also active in Ras Kiambani in Kenya. And people were monitoring them, but people didn't really appreciate the threat that they posed, and so all the eyes were on the Middle East, and there were not enough eyes on Africa. Yes. So it came as a surprise, in fact, after 2002, that those groups attacked Mombasa. In fact, they shot, I think, a plane. They tried to shoot down a plane, an Israeli jet. So yes, the efforts of governments, the heavy-handed tactics of governments have given arguments to groups, but there was also a lack of understanding of the extremist groups that were operating on the continent as well.
I see.